Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the Mansion House. Please can I ask you to welcome the Right Honourable the Lord Mayor, Mark Carney, and your other principal guests. Thank you very much.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's great to see so many people here in Mansion House tonight and to welcome you all to the first Sir Roger Gifford Memorial Lecture. And I'd like to thank you all for joining us today, whether here in the Mansion House or online. My name is Vincent Keaveny. I'm the 693rd Lord Mayor of the City of London. And in that capacity, I'm an international spokesperson for the UK's financial and professional services sector, a sector with many areas of excellence across the UK, but its historic heart here in London. And it was this role, that of Lord Mayor of London, that Sir Roger Gifford took up just about this time 10 years ago. During his mayoralty, Roger was a remarkable advocate for the city, often focusing on celebrating the innovations of the UK's financial sector, especially sustainable finance. Now, compared to where we are now, green finance was in a very nascent state in 2012. It was 7 years before the government published its green finance strategy, 4 years before the Paris Climate Agreement was ratified. But Sir Roger saw promise in this type of finance. Fast forward 10 years, and what a transformation we have seen. The UK is one of the world's leading centres for green finance, whether that's the 380 bonds listed on the London Stock Exchange's sustainable bond market, the close to 300 new green, ethical and alternative energy funds launched in 2021, or the £89 billion worth of responsible investment funds managed in the UK. Indeed, the City of London has led the conversation, hosting the Green Horizon Summit at COP26, as well as our Net Zero Delivery Summit here in Mansion House earlier this year. Now, as we head towards COP27, we must keep up this pace of activity. We must continue to push for more private finance to be mobilized into sustainable products and services. We must ensure that more funding and support goes to emerging and developing economies so that they too can be part of the sustainable solution. And we must make sure that we keep this important issue to the forefront of all our financial decision-making. Through today's event, we are dedicated to continuing that dialogue and capturing that commitment. Sir Roger was the force behind our Green Horizon Summit, and the momentum he built has continued to exceed all our expectations. In many ways, he was ahead of his time, identifying early on the role that finance will play in meeting the challenge of climate change. These annual lectures will harness that dedication and that vision that we recognise in Roger and ensure that this vital work not only gets the attention it deserves, but that we create a space for thoughtful discussion of sustainable finance's priorities for the years ahead. And with that, I would like to thank Mark Carney for being our inaugural speaker. And I'd also like to thank the President of COP, Alok Sharma. And of course, our sponsors, the sponsors of this lecture, SEB and 91. And before Anders Engelstrand, the country head of SEB, comes to the stage to introduce our guest speaker, I'm delighted that we have a message from the President of COP26, the Right Honourable Alok Sharma, MP. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'm very sorry I can't be with you in person this evening, but with just days to go before COP27 and the end of the UK's near 3-year COP26 journey, my team and I are continuing to travel extensively. We're working with governments, businesses, and civil society partners around the world to press for the implementation of the historic Glasgow Climate Pact. But I wanted to speak this evening as a contribution to the inaugural Sir Roger Gifford Lecture, to put on record my thanks and my tribute to Sir Roger. Sir Roger, or Roger, as I knew him when we first met in 1993, was my boss at SEB. You could not have asked for a more supportive, warm and encouraging leader. And Roger, as we all know, was at the forefront of the green finance revolution in the United Kingdom. He led the Green Finance Initiative. He ran the UK government's Green Finance Task Force. He chaired the Green Finance Institute. And he sat on the Dasgupta Review on the Economics of Biodiversity. The tributes that poured in following his untimely death rightly recognized him as a trailblazer, a man who left an indelible mark on the industry. In many ways, he was emblematic of the paradigm shift that we have seen in the financial sector. When I first worked in investment banking back in the 1990s, I can tell you that those people talking about green finance were very much in the minority. They were often met with curious bemusement. Now, in my travels as COP president, I see boardrooms and trading floors around the world where if you're not talking about green finance, you're being left behind. Economic opportunity is now driving climate action. Just look at COP26. When the world came to Glasgow last November for the biggest international conference that this country has ever hosted, the private sector turned up in force. And I'm sure many of you were there. Private finance in particular played its role moving the global financial system far closer to becoming a system capable of delivering and indeed powering the global transition to net zero. And so it feels fitting that my very good friend Mark Carney is delivering this evening's lecture. As you know, Mark is leading the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero, or GFANZ as it's known. GFANZ, which was launched at COP26, is bringing together institutions with $130 trillion of assets on their balance sheets, each of them committed to net zero by 2050. And it is now time for financial institutions in attendance tonight who've not done so to join up and commit to net zero. And I'm sure that Mark will metaphorically be holding your feet to the fire on that, but of course, in his own suave and effectively persuasive manner. And for everyone in the audience, whether you're in finance or not, please set out your company's concrete science-based transition plans. And we need private finance in particular to mobilize in support of our work in developing economies around the world, which will be completely central to the global transition. Ensuring finance is flowing into our just energy transition partnerships, the first of which we launched at COP26, and where work continues to progress with countries such as Vietnam, is particularly key. Just as governments around the world are working to ramp up their own ambition, you must do the same. Finally, I know that many of you will be representing businesses and organizations, including subnational governments and corporations with footprints around the world. So I encourage you to take this work and your ambition and drive progress in markets and jurisdictions that are lacking behind. Friends, we know that the cost of inaction on climate are catastrophic. But we must all recognize, as Sir Roger did, that as well as being what your customers and your shareholders expect, the economic opportunities of action are remarkable too. And this is about protecting and growing the bottom line. Green investment is now good business sense. So together we can chart a path to a sustainable net zero future for the world. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your evening. And I look forward to seeing many of you in Sharm el-Sheikh at COP27.